none. All those in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? By the way, thank you, Judy, for helping get those things together. Obviously, it's sitting in for a second place. So thank you again. Okay, what I'm going to do for the public comment is the ones that were for more general items, we'll take those right now for public comment. So I'm going to take them in the order that I got them here. So Erlen Waydall first.
My comment is this. Everybody says that the administration does not listen. But I would like to note also that the Senate is not speaking. Individual senators have been giving their opinions during this crisis. But the Senate body as a whole appears to be silent. And as a result of this, the Senate has left a leadership void, a void which other groups have had to fill. In the Academic Senate bylaws, it says in the section on the purpose of the Senate, it's an excerpt of it. Article 2.1 represents the faculty on all policies and procedures involving academic and professional matters. Article 2.3 strengthens the role of the faculty in the governance process. And I want to clarify that I'm not saying take a fight with the administration. I'm just saying stand up for the academic issues that you really care about. For example, take class size limits. Only the union is currently stopping the administration from increasing it by a large percentage. What is the Senate doing about it? Don't wait until it's too late. Thank you.
Okay, next was Danny Hammond.
Yeah, I just want to make a couple comments on Larry Mantle's Air Talk today at about 11:35. Dr. Rocha was on the radio, and these are some statements that he made. I'm not quoting them, but to the best of my understanding, number one, he said that the problem with PCC is not a shared governance problem or issue, but a labor dispute, a 10-year-long labor dispute. He also said that, and I'm going to come back to that point, he also said that the decision made regarding the calendar went fully through the shared governance process. That was my understanding of what he said. You can listen to it. I was trying to get it so I could actually have you listen to the parts, but it was too hard technically because it wasn't even posted online until, well, I don't even know if it's there yet, but it was this morning. He also said that the calendar issue had been turned over to the Academic Senate, from the Academic Senate to the Faculty Association. And this has been brought up before. I've been on this Academic Senate for the last 6 years, and I'm the co-lead negotiator with the Faculty Association now. I am not aware of that issue ever being turned over to the Faculty Association. There's nothing in writing. There's no knowledge of it to me or anybody else that I've checked with it. If somebody does have that knowledge or has something in writing that says it's been turned over, in fact, I wouldn't think it would be the purview or the authority of the president of the Academic Senate. It was under Ed, is when it was claimed it was done. I wouldn't even think he would have the right to do that without our approval. And as far as I know, I was at most meetings and that was never approved, that we would turn over the calendar to the Faculty Association. So there's no record of it, there's nothing in writing about it. I have no knowledge of this, but that's what's being claimed. It was said on the radio again today. The calendar change was made, again, this is what he said, the calendar change was made based on academic reasons. We had declining scores, is what he said. And we have been told that in negotiations as well. So these are academic issues. And I want to go back to when he first said this is a labor dispute, not a shared governance problem. The two biggest problems with the labor problem have to do with NCNs and the calendar. Those are both shared governance issues. And speaking of those issues, I have two handouts over here to get a chance to get them. One shows these are the numbers under the old NCNs and the new NCNs and what it would mean as far as increases in classroom sizes. It's a little complex, so I don't want to get into it too much, but it just shows the original 82, 83 NCNs and the 2012, which are the most recent, what we believe are pedagogically correct. And then it shows how many students you would have to put in there if you had a 20% increase. Now remember, it's not just going to be a 20% increase, because that's on average And there are many classes where you cannot increase 20% because there's only so many, in a lab, there's only so many spaces. So the other classes will get even more than this. But for instance, you can see the percentage over the most current NCNs that were approved by the Academic Senate. They range between 30 and over 100% more than what is recommended pedagogically. The number of students is in the double digits on the far right. The one 8283, that's over the NCNs of 8283. The one on the far right is over 2012. Again, it's a lot of numbers. If you want me to explain to you afterwards, I'd be glad to. In regards to his claim that we've never been shown any data, that we have declining data since the winter intersession was installed. But we did have some data that was put out, I believe, by our own IPRO here, and it shows higher percentages. That's on the lighter one. On the back side, it shows higher percentages in most semesters since the winter intersession was put in. And then finally, I just wanted to, on the other side is the only, as far as I could tell, argument, academic argument for winter intersession being removed. And I just wanted to point out a couple of things. First of all, in the first sentence, it says, to date, there have not been any comprehensive studies of the effects of summer and winter intersession breaks on academic achievement at 2-year and 4-year colleges. Well, we're a 2-year college, so there are no studies that show this, but he's going to use this study. And the next sentence says, however, research on summer vacation at K through 12. So this is a study on K through 12 and summer vacations there, okay? And then third, after describing these two studies, the first sentence in the third paragraph on that page says, again, it should be noted that a direct causal link to the loss of achievement at the college level and intersession breaks should not be concluded from these two meta-analysis studies. So this is the part of the argument for this winter intersession, which today, again, he argued had nothing to do with budget, which is not what we were told by board members when we met with them. And that supposed crisis is clearly over as far as the budget crisis. So I just wanted to point some of those things out. That's what was said on the radio today.
Okay, I'm probably saying this last name wrong. I apologize. Roberta Tragars? Tragars, I'm sorry.
Good afternoon. My name is Roberta Tragars. I've lived in Pasadena for over 20 years, and both of my children attend public school here. I was an adjunct English professor at Pasadena City College from spring 1997 to spring 2000, when I was hired as a tenure-track professor at Santiago College in the city of Orange. I have now been teaching at SEC for 13 years. 2000 to 2001 was my first year at SEC. It was also Mark Rocha's first and only year as our college president. As an active citizen of this city, I have been reading in the press about Mark Rocha's tenure as president during the last 3 years. When I read that there was a vote of no confidence by students and a group of professors, I contacted my good friend Margaret Manson, former Vice President of Academic Affairs during Mark Rocha's time at SEC. I knew that she would want her voice to be heard. This is a statement that she wrote on March 28, 2013. She lives back east and asked me if I would read it to you. Concerning President Mark Rocha, I have read with both interest and concern the supporting documentation for the proposed vote of no confidence for Mark Rocha, President of PCC. While I cannot address the internal politics regarding PCC's need to reduce or cancel classes, eliminate faculty, or increase class sizes, I can speak to his leadership style as I experienced it, and his willful disregard of shared governance at SEC. Mark was the first college president hired after SEC became a separate college within the Rancho Santiago Community College District. I was the vice president of academic affairs at that time and served as a member of the hiring committee. Even though Mark had no California community college experience, he was an impressive candidate. I was not a candidate for this position and assured Mark when he was hired that I would do everything I could to ensure his success. I also told him that I would keep him informed and assist him as he became familiar with the community college structure and our system of shared governance. As a longtime district employee, initially hired in 1979, I was well versed in the development and intent of AB 1725. However, within a very short period of time, it became clear that Mark had no intent of sharing college governance with any other constituent groups as required or had historically been the case at SCC. In reviewing documents from the Santiago Valley College Academic Senate at that time, it is clear that the SCC faculty also experienced intimidation and, in their words, were treated in a condescending manner, not as colleagues, nor as staff, with valid historical viewpoints. I certainly knew this to be true when Mark had open battles with faculty at the Academic Senate. His reports to me following such encounters were that he had been belly bumping and that he never stepped off the sidewalk for anyone. Mark seemed to enjoy the combative approach. On more than one occasion, he came to me to complain about individual faculty members who did not respect him as president. I personally experienced Mark's anger and outrage when, after an especially difficult encounter with a faculty member, he came into my office, shut the door, and demanded to know what I had done to cause this faculty member to treat him in such a disrespectful way, since he was the college president. I explained to him at that time that the problem was not mine, and that in battling with faculty, he was creating serious problems that would make it more and more difficult for the new college to function effectively. Although I had hoped to continue in my administrative position, it became increasingly clear that I could not work for Mark, and I reluctantly decided to exercise my retreat rights to the classroom. After I made this very tough decision, Mark was furious with me and highly concerned about how this would make him look. Toward the end of my administrative tenure, he came into my office, shut the door, and stood blocking the door while he told me in direct and offensive language that he had no intent of seeking revenge against me for leaving my administrative position and making it look bad for him. While I had been aware for some time that his anger, and in this case rage, was generally directed toward women, this final encounter left me shaken. In the many years I worked for the district, having had many different positions and levels of responsibility, I had never worked for a more unscrupulous or unethical administrator. When Mark told me early on that his approach was, "This is what we tell the faculty, but this is what we really do," I knew we were not a well-matched administrative team. I had hoped that somewhere along the way, he would have learned to moderate his anger, operate with honesty and transparency, and recognize that all voices need to be honestly considered in the decision-making process. While I hope some of this is true, concerns expressed by the PCC faculty seem very familiar and are consistent with my own experiences. When PCC was hiring the new president, I received a call from someone at your college. I spoke to the caller about what I perceived as Mark's anger problem, his treatment of women, as I and my SEC colleagues experienced it, and explained that I still have my notes and documents that clearly indicate many of the problems of his presidency. When it became apparent that Mark was going to be hired, my advice to the caller was eyes wide open is the best approach. I also remember feeling badly for PCC and all those connected to this well-respected college. When my former colleagues contacted me about faculty concerns at PCC, I was sorry, but not surprised. Respectfully, Margaret Manson, retired Vice President of Academic Affairs and Professor at Santiago Valley College. As a first-year tenure-track faculty member, I wasn't focused on the inner workings of the college at that time. In fact, people told us to stay out of it because we were concerned about what might happen with Mark Rocha in charge. But many of my colleagues had negative exchanges with him. Recently, I was speaking to a colleague who was a division chair during Mark Rocha's tenure. That year, she was reading the local paper and found out that a department in her division had partnered with a local university. This was news to her. She sent Mark Rocha an email congratulating him on the partnership, but also asked that she be informed about these types of ventures in the future. His response, "When you need to know something, I'll tell you." There are stories like this that can be told by many of my colleagues. The sad part about that year, as most will tell you, is that our school lost our true focus, the students. Inevitably, it was time and energy well spent, as Mark Rocha did not finish the year. Before our Senate's resolution of no confidence could be voted on, and it probably would have been unanimous, our Chancellor asked our Senate board to hold off. Within a week, Mark Rocha was on administrative leave. PCC is important to this community. I hope that this group will listen carefully to what I've shared with you and that you listen to your colleagues about what is going on at this campus. I got my start here. This is where I learned how to be a professor, and it has always been a place that is important to me. I live 2.5 miles away, and for 3 years I've been listening to what's been going on, and I really hope that you guys will listen. Thank you. And there's copies of the statement, Margaret's statement, that will be passed around.
Thank you. Other comment, none. Okay, Simon, you have a lot of different things you wanted to be on here. You want to talk to your more general auditing and AS update, and then I'll save your other comments for when we get to the agenda item.
Sure.
So auditing and AS PCC update.
So, it's hard to follow that. Wow. Thank you. First of all, I did want to update because I do know the Academic Senate did take action on the auditing policy. AS did have a couple of concerns with it that can be fixed, possibly. However, no one from the Academic Senate ever did come to the Associated Student to discuss or present the policy. So I'm a little bit concerned and disappointed that no one took that, not much energy, but a little bit of energy to present to the Associated Student. And I'm going to reiterate again, shared governance. The Academic Senate has a weight to its voice, which is to rely primarily upon a mutual agreement. However, as I've done some more research, the AS and AS responsibilities overlap in many cases. And so where they overlap, the direction that the Chancellor's Office gives to shared governance groups is that while there's a higher weight given to the Academic Senate, that does not mean that voice completely outshines the student voice. In fact, it still needs to be heard and it still needs to be presented much in the same way. The comments that the Associated Students would have simply need to be given a little slightly lower weight than the Academic Senate's. I'm concerned that on this campus that hasn't happened, period. That when something's become an academic and professional matter, even if it's on our list, it comes straight to Academic Senate with nothing else. And that's concerning to me, and I hope that the Academic Senate would support not only its own shared governance rights, but our shared governance rights as well, moving forward from this point. I do want to give an update on AS activities very briefly. We have elections going on right now, so please encourage your students to vote and to turn out to vote. I think it is very important that the democratic process continue, especially given the circumstances we have on campus where it's all in a flux and some stability is needed. We will be having a joint meeting with the Board of Trustees this April 3rd, and of course, please again let your students know turnout is welcome. And we will be briefly discussing the student activity fee most likely, which is one of our main sources of funding along with food service. And finally, I want to let everyone know that I'm available. I won't take up Academic Senate time with it, but there were a couple of claims made about AS and its actions and the way that it has responded. Some of them were made by Dr. Rocha at this meeting 2 weeks ago. I unfortunately wasn't here. I was in the District of Columbia lobbying people on actual really important issues. And so I wasn't able to attend and listen to what he had to say. I watched it afterwards. It wasn't all correct. I do want that to be clear. None of this was a drive-by for the administration. I want that to be known. But I'm happy to talk to anyone individually afterwards, so I don't take up Academic Senate time. I just want everyone to know that the AS continues to stand by its actions as being appropriate, necessary, and what was needed at that point moving forward, and that we have no intention right now of changing our minds or going back on that, regardless of where the consequences will probably lead the Associated Students. Thank you. Yes, we are. We're going to have town hall. So the first candidates forum is in the Wi-Fi lounge Thursday, and then next Tuesday, and then next Thursday at 12 o'clock.
Thank you, Simon. And then Melissa, you want to talk about the website?
Oh, yeah. I was looking at the Academic Senate website, and it says on the faculty survey page that was done from November 19, 2012, on whether or not the faculty opposed the process by which winter was canceled or support the process. It says at the very top, it says from full-time and adjunct faculty. So I was wondering if that was, if adjunct faculty were polled in this. Were they?
They were. Yeah, I remember putting all the steps and all the information. That's just 2 hours. But yeah, we did do all the actions. They did. Okay, that closes all the sort of general public comment. I would say a bit more specific to the actual items when they come up here.
I actually want to put mine in public, in very public comment, because I don't know if I'll be able to.
Oh, okay.
sets up a leadership group within the committee, essentially outside of any supervision by the Senate. Section 7, and all membership of that leadership committee is appointed by one of the administrative seated co-chair, not back to the Senate. Number 7, section 7, seems to outline the committee's procedures to do student outcome assessments. Again, I've spoken to the people of this committee. I've sent out comments to them and outlining this problem. This is actually the purview of each faculty in a area or division. We are to come up with our student learning outcomes for our courses. They cannot change those certain student learning outcomes unless they are one of the faculty members in that area. So the language here is very tricky, and I'm sure they don't mean to be tricky, but it's been pointed out and it still remains. Also, this area seems to suggest that somebody could come into your classroom and assess your students for you. Again, this is something only faculty should do and are required to do, right? As part of program review and as part of review of your curriculum. Number 7 says, the mission of the Learning Assessment Committee is to improve student learning outcomes by supporting teaching and learning through assessment at course, program, and general education level. At course level, which means it can go into your course as this language now stands.
No, that's not.
It doesn't matter.
Martha,
The language-
actually, we're gonna, in order sort of to make sure we follow parliamentary rules, let's just get the item on the floor first, and then I'll let you
All
continue
right.
your comment. So let's just get the item out there first. So let me just close public comment.
I'm not finished.
Well, you can speak up once we get the item on the floor, because basically this is general comment.
Let me
sort of
point
general
out
comment.
one last thing in my public comment, please. And that is that in section 2, we move from informing the work of the BRAC, and lower down, again, this was pointed out, it is a recommendation to the curriculum and instruction as well as to the accreditation liaison officer. These recommendations are important and they should be